All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Let us begin. So we are picking up. We're actually going to conclude today, Osnun Gimel 53. So we're picking up in the PDF on page Kuf Chav Ches. Page Kuf Chav Ches in the Be'uriah Chasidus, the middle section of the page, the right-hand column. So remember again, yesterday HaTzaddik was talking about the idea of Margale Bepume, right? The Margale Bepume, the jewel that comes out of a person's mouth. The idea that sometimes even just what a person says, just in his common everyday exchanges, is rooted in a significant sense of ruchnius, or in a significant level of ruchnius, of spirituality. That almost like sometimes a person's mundane talk seems to highlight or bespeak his inner kedusha. And HaTzaddik explained that's because Kol nefesh mi Yisrael yesh lo achiza b'divrei Torah miyuchades. Every nefesh, every Jewish soul has an achiza, has a hold in Torah that is unique. Again, going to the idea that, I meant to mention this yesterday, as the Gemara says, that Torah, Kudsha Brichu, Klal Yisrael Chadehi. It's all one entity. Klal Yisrael, Torah, the Ribbon Shalom, one entity. Because it's one entity, therefore, by definition, every Jew, whether he realizes it or not, is steeped in Torah. And therefore that Torah comes out even in the most mundane statements, the most mundane lashon. So the Rebbe goes on, he says, Uber hadavar zeh. So this is page Kuf Chav Ches, Be'uriah Chasidus, right-hand column. Uber hadavar zeh, ki koach hadibar sheva adam hu yisod hanefesh v'achi yishalo. We'll say a person's speech is the yesod of his nefesh, is the essence of his soul and his lifeblood. Because as we're going to see, I mentioned this yesterday, Shari Targum Unkelus ala pasuk Vayi Adam lenefesh chaya. When the pasuk says that man was made to a nefesh chaya, a living being, Vahavas ba'adam l'ruach memalala. Remember again, Unkelus translates it as man ruach memalala. What does it mean? Man became a living being. Speech. L'ruach medaberes. Hare shechios hanefesh hi b'mashi yeshba es koach hadibor. So what do you see from here? You see from here is that the true, what he calls chios hanefesh. Thank you, chios hanefesh. So the life of an individual is embedded ultimately again in his dibor, in his speech. Because we'll say the fact, see, what Reb Tzaddik is pointing out is something very important. It's not just the pshat. I'm sorry, did I forget to hit that? Okay, thank you. It's not just the pshat that a person's speech is what distinguishes him from the animal kingdom. But rather, again, it's the fact that a person's speech is the very manifestation of his life. In other words, my ability to speak is the actual manifestation that I am a living being. That's what that represents. He goes on, he says, Kimo she'amru chazal b'psikta, ein bein tzadikim achayim lemesim, Ella hadibar b'divrei Torah bilvad. This is incredible. There's no distinction between the tzaddikim who are alive and the tzaddikim who are dead, except for speech. Because we'll say, the Gemara Maseches Brachas that says the tzaddikim are called living even in their death, which makes sense because the tzaddik leaves behind a legacy. The tzaddik leaves behind Torah. The tzaddik leaves behind certain things that keep him in the world of the living, even when his biological life has come to an end. So if that's the case, that the tzaddik is always considered alive, what's the difference between a living tzaddik and a dead tzaddik? Speech. Deeper b'divrei Torah bilvad. B'zeu yisod hachios. And this is the essence, this is the foundation of life. Ki divrei Torah im chaya adam. V'chivan sha'adibor hashagar al lishono ha'adam. V'ragil la'omro nova misharish nafsho. So listen to this, what I say. So now that I understand, it's not just the pshat that speech is what distinguishes me from the animals, but it's speech that represents the very manifestation of my life force. Right? Speech is what is my chios, is my life. Then at the end of the day, says the Rebbe, it makes sense. So what it turns out is, speech is the very essence of my life. And speech is the very manifestation of my life force. Therefore, when I speak, and this is incredible, when I speak, especially things that I'm accustomed to say, those come, the Rebbe says, mishoresh nafsho, from the essence of my soul. Come from the essence of my soul. Hari nimtza imkein kimi dibor zeh yotze tamin mipiv yuchal ha'adam livchon v'la'amod al malhus shoresh nafsho. Therefore, this is incredible. It turns out that if there's a margale bapume, or deragil inish lemimar, something you normally say, something you customarily say, something you often say, so that gives a person a window into their holiness, into their almost their inner ruchnius, their shoresh nafsho, the essence of yourself. There's something that is normally says, something you normally say. That means that speech, which in and of itself is the manifestation of your soul, of your holiness, that speech is coming from somewhere ruchni, which means, and if it's, again, let's say, I want to be clear, the Rebbe is not saying that every single thing we say is a manifestation of our ruchnius. I mean, all of us know this very well. There's plenty of stuff we say that's not ruchni. That's not ruchni. He's talking about many of us we have our adages, right? We have the things that we say. Just ask your kids. They'll tell you the things that you always say. So the HaTzaddik says it's interesting that many of us have the things that we often say. So what's the pshat with that? So the Rebbe says, speech, again, it's the progression. Speech is the manifestation of my internal holiness. And therefore, when there's something that I commonly say, that means that is like a principle that is emanating from my neshama, which means that by definition, it has almost a Torah holiness to it. But maybe I don't even know any Torah. You might not consciously know any Torah, but Kol Torah Kula is embedded in your subconscious. Kol Torah Kula is embedded in your soul. And Kol Torah Kula sometimes finds its way out in the interesting adages that a person says. He goes on, he says, and this is incredible. Imkein, Medibar Zayotze Tamin Mipiv, left hand column, page Kuf Chav Chas Bure Chasidus. Therefore, we'll say if there's something that a person says often, Yuchal ha'adam livchon v'la'amod al malhus shoresh nafsho. Sometimes that daily adage, right, or that common adage that a person says is an incredible way for a person to see the essence of his spirituality. Ladas ma inyano v'safkido hamiyuchad ba'olam hazeh. To know what is my purpose, what is my inyan, and what is my purpose in this world. Now both say, now this is now something else. Now the Rebbe is introducing another dynamic, which I just think is so incredible. The Rebbe is saying sometimes not only is the margala bepume, not only is the common statement a manifestation of my inner holiness and my inner Torah, but sometimes that which I often say could also be a little bit of a remez, to be a little bit of a hint to what's my purpose in this world. I'll say, isn't this incredible? Sometimes the thing, which makes sense, because the things that I always talk about, or the adages that I often discuss, they represent what's coming out of my soul. He says, HaTzaddik is highlighting over here. See, we often think people just talk, and that is true. People do just talk, but sometimes when a person is often anchored in a common saying, or a person often expresses a certain sentiment over and over and over, what Chazal would call margale bepume, hadiragil inish lemeimar. Why are you always saying that? So HaTzaddik says, that's coming from inside of me. That's coming from inside of my neshama. That's a manifestation of my inner Torah. To which HaTzaddik says, first of all, it tells me I have inner Torah, but now he's saying on a deeper level, it may also represent my mission in this world. If I'm always talking about the same thing, then maybe says HaTzaddik, that's necessary. La'das ma inyano v'safkido hamiyuchad ba'olam hazeh. That can help me understand what is my inyan, what is my tafkid, what is my purpose in this world. Ki kol echad hu medugal o menusa be'inyan miyuchad b'fnei atzmo. She'avar zeh kala olam kula b'shvila utzrichim lo bazeh. Because we all have a mission. and Reb Tzaddik's words are very powerful over here. Every single person has a mission, and every person has a mission in a particular area. Of course, we all have, one could argue, we all have a same shared general mission to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to do mitzvos, to be Bali Chesed. Okay, so that's a shared general mission that each of us have. But then each of us also has a specific mission. Sha'avur zeh, kala olam kula bishvilo tzrichim labazeh. This mission, the world needs me to do. I need to do the mission for me, and the world needs me to do it as well. And I will say, it's pretty incredible. He goes on, he says, Ukahai Gavna. So, we'll stop over here for today. But I just want to point out what Reb Tzaddik is highlighting in this, because I think it's truly amazing. So there's a number of things that's happening. Number one, remember, why is it that Chazal speak about, often quote, Margala bepumidi inchi? This is what people normally say. And they just quote like a regular adage. Who cares? Right? Or Havadiragil inchi, the manner people normally say, because Reb Tzaddik says, that which we say is a manifestation of our inner holiness. Because speech, dibor in and of itself, is not just what distinguishes us from the animal kingdom, but speech is the way, says Reb Tzaddik, that we articulate an innate sense of Torah, an innate sense of ruchnius. It is how we communicate our innate holiness. And what Reb Tzaddik is introducing now, I said, what about the stuff that I say over and over, right? This, I always say, like, it's always interesting to note, after 120, when you go to a levaya and you hear how people reflect on a loved one. And to me, it's always fascinating, especially when children are able to go ahead and say, my father always used to say this. My mother always used to say this. So sometimes what they quote is a little bit sad and pathetic. But sometimes, a child remembers a real sense of parental wisdom. And it's dramatic. It's dramatic when you hear that, because that's the legacy. That's the legacy. And Reb Tzaddik says, where did that adage come from? The fact that children remember it. Okay, it could be because the father said it 1,000,000 times. But on a deeper level, what the children are recognizing is our father, our mother, our parent, or it doesn't, grandparent, was articulating a truth. And that truth stemmed from their inner ruchnius, from their inner holiness. What Reb Tzaddik now introduced, which we'll have to stop with today, but we'll continue with tomorrow, Emir Hashem, is that inner truth sometimes also is reflective of a personalistic mission. That when you always talk about the same thing, and you always talk about the same concept, or the same ideal, or the same issue, says Reb Tzaddik, you might not even realize it, but you're articulating to yourself what your mission is in this world, and what the world truly needs you for. So we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up Emir Hashem with the rest of this. We'll conclude Osnim Gimel Emir Hashem tomorrow. Sheikh, we'll say.